Hey y'all, I've heard people talk over the last few weeks about how it seems like everything going on in the world right now is playing out exactly how Revelation describes it. And so this pandemic and all this craziness are signs that we're moving towards the end. Is that what's going on? Is that what Revelation's telling us about? Let's talk about the meaning of the book Revelation. Now, you need to know that books like Revelation, with their kind of wild images and visits to heaven and apocalyptic disasters, books like that were not uncommon in the world of the New Testament. There's a whole genre of those. And if we want to understand Revelation, well, then we need to understand them, the genre. I mean, think about sci-fi. There's this whole genre of sci-fi, right? Well, what would you think if someone who'd never heard of sci-fi before, he watched the original Star Trek, Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock. He watched Star Trek and he said, oh, wow, this is about the future. This is telling us what's going to happen in the future. You'd be like, no, that's not what Star Trek is. That's not how sci-fi works. It's not predicting the future. If anything, Star Trek was talking about the present. I mean, they had episodes about racism, episodes about the Cold War. A lot of great sci-fi does that. It tries to help you look at your own world and see it differently. But you don't understand the genre and you might miss that. Well, Revelation's a lot like that. Books like Revelation were written by people in times of crisis. People who were going through persecutions and trials. They were a way for people to kind of put their struggles into context and to say, you know what? Heaven has a timeline here, and nothing that's going on is a surprise to God. The Lord's still in control and still guiding us towards a hopeful ending to all of this. These books were meant to encourage people and to give them hope and to help them to persevere through their trials. And that's exactly what Revelation is all about too. It's encouraging people to overcome, to keep the faith. If you don't believe me, go read the first 3 chapters of Revelation again. Right? That call to persevere and to overcome is repeated 7 times in the first 3 chapters of Revelation. And again, at the very end of the book, John wants us to know exactly what he's driving at here. And so while we tend to think of Revelation as a book that kind of pulls back the curtain, giving us a glimpse of the future, of the end of everything, of what's going to come one day, Revelation was really more about helping people to deal with what was happening in their day, starting with the people John wrote it to 2,000 years ago, the churches in Thyatira and Laodicea and all those places. Revelation is less about giving people a prediction of the future and more about giving them a description of the present, of what's really going on in the world around them. And that's true generation after generation, from John's time to ours. Because whenever there are trials and tribulations, that's just the surface. Beneath that, there are evil forces at work. And above that, God is at work too. That's what John's revealing to us. And so I think Revelation's message to us today in this crisis is the same thing that Revelation's been saying to Christians for 2,000 years. It's not, the end is nigh. It's God is on the throne. And nothing happening today is going to stop God's plan to heal this world and to make everything new and for us to be together with Him one day. And so Revelation's encouraging us not to lose hope, to hold tight to Jesus and to overcome. I hope that's helpful, y'all. Hang in there. I'll talk to you soon.